Miami-Dade is a global gateway powered by twin engines. We're talking about PortMiami and also Miami International Airport, right? The success of our logistics and transportation networks defines our role in international trade, in tourism, and economic development. So this next session, our third session, it's called Edge of Innovation, Logistics, Technology, and Economic Forecasting for Miami-Dade's Global Gateways. This panel will explore the critical role of Miami-Dade's airport and seaports as global gateways, which are driving regional and international commerce. Leaders will be discussing how cutting-edge technologies, innovative logistics, and also forward-looking economic forecasts are shaping the future of trade, travel, and connectivity. We will be getting an inside look at the challenges and opportunities that we're seeing in Miami-Dade County as it positions itself as a world-class hub for goods and also for people. We do know that this session is about foresight and strategy, ensuring that our global gateway continues to thrive in this ever-changing world. So, please join me in welcoming our moderator for this panel, Mr. Jimmy Morales, Chief Operating Officer for Miami-Dade County. He will be leading this discussion. Mr. Morales was appointed as Chief Operating Officer by Miami-Dade Mayor Danielle Levine-Cava back in December of 2020. In this role, he oversees key county departments including Aviation, Seaport, Transportation, Public Works, Cultural Affairs, and Libraries, along with Housing and Community Development. Under his leadership, these departments have launched major initiatives, including a $1.7 billion water and sewage improvement program and a $9 billion capital improvement program at MIA. He is currently leading the efforts to expand public transportation in Miami-Dade County. Before joining Miami-Dade County, he served as County Commissioner for District 7. He chairs the Mayor's Infrastructure Group, which has secured over $1 billion in grant funding for county projects. Recently, the Southeastern Conference for Public Administrators selected Morales as the recipient of the 2025 Kathleen E. Hensley Distinguished Public Service Practitioner Award for the Southeastern United States. Morales graduated magna cum laude from Harvard Law School and Harvard College. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much. I love that introduction. But really to have as part of my portfolio the two leading economic engines, not only in Miami-Dade County, but frankly in the state of Florida. And so very fortunate to have that, and I know many of you are familiar with that. I'm going to call up, obviously, the best part of having them in my portfolio is two great leaders who are also really good people. At PortMiami, Hydi Webb, who literally graduated from the University of Florida, went to work at PortMiami, never left. She's held almost every job possible there, and as a result, it was very easy a couple of years ago when her predecessor went to join the private sector that I recommended to the mayor that Hydi should become the first woman who ever was the director and CEO of PortMiami. So Hydi, come on up, please.
Playing the role of Hydi is Javier Betancourt. No, you started this panel so early that I don't think they're in the room yet. So, Jimmy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
They're not in the room. Oh no. Oh, there they are. I see Hydi coming in. All right.
Grand entrance.
Hydi, I just gave you a great introduction. I'm not repeating it. So come on up. And then walking with her, Ralph Cutié, who is someone who has been with the county for many, many years. And in the last number of years at the airport, but he has over the years specialized in construction management, strategic thinking. And again, it was my great honor a couple of years ago when his predecessor moved on to recommend to the mayor to make Ralph the director of Miami International Airport. Well, actually, it's the Miami Department of Aviation with the MIA and the 4 general airports. So big round of applause for you as well, Ralph. Before we start because we're having a little extra time, before we start with the Q&A, I think we have a little video to give you a sense of what is happening at MIA and PortMiami.
heart of South Florida, where air, sea, and community connect to power Miami, your global gateway. Miami International Airport and PortMiami stand as vital pillars of our economy, moving millions of passengers and tons of cargo across the world each year. Together, they generate billions in economic impact, support hundreds of thousands of jobs, and open the door to opportunity here at home and across the globe. This is more than infrastructure. This is our community, and this is our story. In 2024, our global hubs not only reinforced their status as Miami-Dade County's two vital economic engines, but also underscored the indispensable role of their dedicated workforces in shaping our region's future. Together, MIA and PortMiami generated a staggering $243 billion in annual economic activity, accounting for 14% of Florida's GDP. Their combined operations supported nearly 1.2 million jobs for 11% of the state's employment, encompassing direct, indirect, and induced jobs in aviation, maritime, logistics, tourism, and beyond. MIA, Miami's global gateway, is the busiest U.S. airport for international freight and the second busiest for international passengers, welcoming nearly 56 million travelers and handling over 3 million tons of cargo in 2024. The airport's expansive network of nearly 100 air carriers connects Miami to the world and to more destinations in Latin America and the Caribbean than any other U.S. airport. MIA's operations are integral to Florida's economy, contributing nearly 843,000 jobs and generating approximately $181.4 billion in annual business revenue. Dubbed the cruise capital of the world and one of America's fastest-growing global gateways, PortMiami achieved a record 8.2 million cruise passengers in fiscal year 2024, marking a 12% increase over the previous year. The port handled over 1 million TEUs of cargo for the 10th consecutive year, solidifying its position as Florida's leading international container port. PortMiami contributes more than $61 billion annually to the economy and supports over 340,078 jobs in Florida. Behind these remarkable achievements are the dedicated individuals whose expertise and commitment ensure the seamless operation of MIA and PortMiami. Their contributions are the backbone of our community's success, from airline crews and cargo handlers to longshore workers, customs agents, and hospitality teams. These individuals fuel our region's transportation hubs. They don't just keep the engines of commerce running, they support families, build careers, and strengthen our neighborhoods. With strategic investments and visionary planning, these critical transportation hubs are undergoing transformative growth. At MIA, the launch of an ambitious capital improvement program is ushering in a new era of air travel. Over the next decade, our airport will invest more than $9 billion to expand terminal capacity, enhance passenger amenities, and modernize infrastructure, ensuring it remains a top-tier global aviation hub. Construction is already underway. New facilities, baggage systems, gates, and advanced technologies are being integrated to meet rising passenger demand and streamline operations. These improvements are designed not just for today, but to meet the demands of tomorrow. Just a few miles east, PortMiami is surging forward, investing nearly $2 billion through a series of major infrastructure upgrades. The port is increasing its cargo handling capacity and modernizing cruise terminals. Projects include expanded rail and new state-of-the-art cranes, advanced logistics systems, and terminals built in partnership with leading cruise lines. Together, MIA and PortMiami are innovating, leading their industries to be future-ready, fueling job creation, regional growth, and international connectivity. Thanks to the companies, partners, and unwavering dedication of those who serve at the heart of our global gateways, the world is moving, and Miami is leading the way.
So as you can tell from the video, a big part of my job is going to groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings, as I was in several of those pictures. But that is a testament to just what the kind of growth that's going on. And let me remind folks, not that I need to, that 5 years ago, we know a little something called COVID shut down cruise ship business, shut down pretty much air travel. And the fact that we have come back with a roar, probably among the strongest recoveries in the country, is a testament to wise investments that were made during that time, the relationships with the industry, and so we're fortunate to have two good leaders here who have been part of that. Ralph, let me start with you. We saw some global statistics there about the impact. Focus on a couple of them that you think you really want to highlight, and talk about look ahead a little bit and where we talk here about economic forecasting. Where do you see this all going, and what are maybe some of the challenges you face as you do that?
Sure, Chief. So you saw in the video stole some of my thunder. So we had our economic impact numbers updated a few months ago up to 2024. So those numbers are really, really impressive. It's $181.4 billion in economic impact and 843,000 jobs annually. That's direct, indirect, related, and induced. To put that in perspective, Disney, which everybody's familiar with, represents about $45 to $50 billion of economic impact to the state of Florida. So we're like almost 4.5 times what Disney represents. So it's a huge economic impact, which makes us probably, if not the top economic engine in the state, one of them. We represent, just in Miami-Dade County alone, it's a regional impact, a county impact, and a nationwide and statewide impact. So just in the county alone, we represent more than 311,000 jobs and about, I think it's, what's the number, almost $42 billion just in Miami-Dade County alone. So the economic impact is huge, and we continue to grow. This past year, we had our 5th straight record-breaking year in cargo volume alone. We moved a little bit over 3.1 million tons of cargo. And the incredible news is, with all the headwinds we're facing and tariffs and all the other things that is all over the news, this year we're trending almost 14% over last year's record-breaking numbers. So that'll be our 6th straight record-breaking year in cargo numbers. So our economic, as far as the future, we're projecting to be at about 77 million passengers by the year 2040. You saw in the video we were at 56 million last year, 3 straight record-breaking years. Moving forward, by 2040, we're supposed to be at close to 5 million tons of cargo, which is amazing. So that growth continues. We continue to be an industry leader, top-ranked airport, #1 airport in the U.S. for international freight, 5 in the world for international freight. So, and then 3 in the U.S. for total cargo. So, we are really, really doing well. And so to the Chief's point, we have projects in the works to go ahead and accommodate that growth, both on the passenger side and the cargo side. And I think the future's bright. Miami's bright. Our market is resilient. We've been able to bounce back, like Chief said, from COVID tremendously. We are right now the fastest growing hub airport in the United States in the area of seat capacity, which is a key metric for passenger volume. And so we've had that rank for the last 3 years. So the future's bright, but not only here in Dade County, but at the airport, I know the Seaport as well. So something we're excited about.
Thank you, Ralph. Hydi, obviously for, I think, at least 2 years, there was no cruising, right? Cruise ship industry was shut down. And here, last year, you set the world record. And you are still the cruise ship capital of the world. How have you accomplished that? And looking ahead, what do you see going forward?
Yeah, thank you. It doesn't happen overnight, and it takes the whole community and a good strong port team to make that happen. But yes, last year we had a world record of 8.2 million cruise passengers that sailed through your port of Miami. We are trending about 4% higher than that for this year. So we'll be breaking a new port record this fiscal year. But, it takes great partners, right? We have a lineup of wonderful cruise lines that really bring diversity, everything from family-friendly cruises to adult-only cruises to global carriers and boutique cruise lines. So really having a diversified cruise pattern where there's something really for everybody is wonderful. But once you have the ships, you need facilities, right? So we have been very fortunate in building world-class cruise facilities and setting a standard for the industry. In the last 7 years, we've opened up 5 brand new cruise terminals, and it really kicked off with Royal Caribbean Cruise Terminal A. And then, Chief, you're right. There was 2 years, almost a year and a half of no cruising, actually. The only industry that was completely 100% stopped for a year and a half. We believed in the industry, and we kept on building our cruise facilities. And after COVID was over in 2022, we opened up 3 new cruise terminals, one for Norwegian Cruise Line, one for Carnival, and one for Virgin Voyages. And these are more than cruise terminals. They have really become architectural features that have been immersed into our community. As you drive down the MacArthur Causeway, you know, if the ships aren't there during the day, the terminals are lighting up for community-wide events and really becoming part of the cityscape. Very exciting. Secretary Perdue actually talked a little bit about it this morning. Last year, we also opened up what is the world's largest cruise terminal in partnership with MSC Cruises. It's a very unique terminal. It really broke the mold for one ship, one terminal, and it's sort of like an airport, Ralph. So it's one terminal that accommodates 3 different vessels ultimately from 2 different cruise lines, and 2 of those berths are built out right now. These terminals are extremely technologically advanced. The MSC terminal, for instance, they have license plate recognition when you go into the garages. They have automated baggage sortation, biometrics for check-in. And so the technology just becomes greater and greater in these facilities. So as more passengers are coming through Port Miami, what does that mean? That means more transportation, right? What are we here discussing? We would not be where we are today without the Port of Miami tunnel. It takes about 85% of the traffic off of the streets of downtown. And it's direct highway access to our world-class Miami International Airport, where a lot of our passengers come in through. They fly in through MIA, and then they spend time in our hotels, and they spend time in our local attractions, using our taxis, our Ubers, and just the economic impact of the industry is huge.
I'm going to audible a question, because you talked about you were shut for nearly 2 years in port in cruising, and yet I think the port was wise enough to, during those years, still do some things for the industry, allow construction. Talk a little bit about how, even while closed, we kept investing and working with the industry.
Yeah, good question. So we did not skip a beat. Actually, we did not lay off anybody either. That was one of the mayor's initiatives, not to lay off any staff during these crises. And so we repurposed staff. So if you had staff that might be working in a cruise terminal instead, you know, or in a parking facility that would accommodate cruise passengers, they might be refurbishing something else on the maintenance side. So we repurposed our staff, but also we took that time to have non-interruption in our construction process. And I do want to say that our cruise investments, we do not do them alone. They are hand in hand with our cruise partners, which is wonderful. That's a new model of why we're able to build these landmark facilities. The cruise lines are investing with us as we're building these facilities, which ensures that they're going to want to keep on bringing their vessels to our community. And not only that, but we've been very successful in getting a lot of state and local money to help build our facilities as well.
Yeah, and I guess, Ralph, that theme of, even during the pandemic, the investing in infrastructure that occurred at the port, I know that you know, you have, I know I've wrote here a $9 billion modernization action capital plan, but I actually think it's a little bit higher now.
It's getting higher, yes.
Talk a little bit about how that, you know, that capital program is transforming the airport, both from a customer service perspective, but also in terms of its logistics and capacity.
Sure. So as the chief mentioned, we've embarked and we're currently engaged in a really ambitious. It is currently $9+ billion, but it's actually higher because we continue to identify projects. Our team continues to identify projects that we need to do. So that entire program for now encompasses about $1.7 billion in what we call modernization projects, which is a lot of it related to deferred maintenance, you know, restroom renovations, loading bridge replacements, elevators, escalators, and moving walkways, something that has been a pain point and is now a success story. So we've invested a tremendous amount of not only money, but human capital in those projects. And just some examples for loading bridge replacements. Now we're going all glass. So we're innovating as we go ahead and modernize. So all of our loading bridges now are going to be all glass. They will all include what we call in the industry the latest 400 hertz system. So similar to shore power at the Seaport, when our aircraft berth at a gate, they'll be able to dock to our 400 hertz system and draw power from the terminal and not have to burn fuel and have a carbon impact on the airport because they won't have to operate their auxiliary power unit on the aircraft. So that's one innovation. We're in the process of renovating all 447 of our restrooms. If you can get your arms around that number, 447 restrooms in our terminal. So phase 1 is more than 200, and we're well on our way there. We've completed almost 50, and we have another 136 in design. And then obviously elevators, escalators, we've made a tremendous investment in that, nearly $700 million in just that, conveyances. And we've turned that story around. A year and a half ago, we were at 85% operational. Now we're at 95% operational. And we've doubled the rate of modernization, which is the term of art for replacement in the industry. So now we've gotten traction. So now every year we are replacing between 38 and 40 units. This year we'll finish this year with almost 40 units completed. So we've done all kinds of work on the modernization side, and then the exciting part, what I'd like to share with everybody, is our capital program. So the remaining $7.5 billion and growing will be expanding our terminals. There's people in this room that are involved in those projects, which I've seen throughout the day, and we're extremely excited about our capital program. It's more than 200 projects. A lot of them are public facing. Some of them are out on the airfield, which nobody will see, but which will help us be more efficient. So just some examples. In December, we will complete our new IBIS parking garage. And it's a $137 million project. It's going to include 50 EV charging stations and increase our parking capacity by another 2,240 spaces. That job is going to come in under budget and ahead of schedule. You don't hear that. You don't hear a lot in the county, right? Under budget and ahead of schedule. And that's now in December. We have Central Terminal. Both phases of it are currently under design and moving forward. That will break ground on Central Terminal in 2028 and be done by 2031. Our new Concourse K South Terminal expansion, we broke ground on that back in June, and that project is well on its way, is moving forward. That should be done and completed by 2029. So that's a $700+ million project, which will add another 6 domestic narrow-body gates to our South Terminal, and will provide additional capacity for that growth that I mentioned before. And then lastly, another public-facing project, which a lot of people here like to talk about, is D60 at the very end of North Terminal. That is a $1 billion project that is currently in the design criteria phase. We expect to break ground on that in 2027 and have that done by 2030. The reason I like to share the dates, to the chief's point, in the next 5.5 years, all of these public-facing areas of Miami International Airport will be totally transformed. So between D60, which we get feedback on from our local electeds and all our regional travelers that fly out of D60. Central Terminal, our oldest terminal, which is about 80 years old. Our airport will turn 100 years old in 2028. So Central Terminal is our very oldest terminal. And then Concourse K, which is the first terminal expansion that we've had in the last 18 years. So if you combine all those projects and those completion dates, 2029, 2030, 2031, we're almost in 2026. So 5 years from now, a lot of those public-facing areas, including the exterior facades and all the interiors, will be totally transformed. And that's what gives us our juice on our team. Both our team and our consultants, our contractors that work with us, is you're not going to recognize Miami International Airport. And we continue to see those improvements as we go along, and you have a complete commitment and that passion from our staff to get it done. So it's something we're excited about.
It is very exciting. It'll look like a brand new airport in about 5 to 7 years. That's great. Hydi, I know we talked a lot about the cruise business, but what a lot of folks also don't know maybe is that I think you're the #1 international container port in the state of Florida, and I guess the only U.S. port south of Norfolk that has had the dredging to allow those, what do they call it, super Banamex or post Banamex huge cargo ships. Talk a little bit about that side of the business, which didn't stop during the pandemic, obviously. And how have sort of geopolitical winds impacted that, and how do we see it going forward?
Yeah, thank you, Chief. So at PortMiami, we're continuously monitoring a lot of these geopolitical issues, whether they are tariffs, whether they're hurricanes. We just experienced this week a terrible disaster for a lot of our partners, our business partners, and well as fiscal policies as well. While we're not immune to them, we do have a very diversified trade pattern. Obviously, our #1 trade pattern is the north-south trade. We trade with over 140 nations globally. North-south is 46% of our trade, so Latin America and the Caribbean, followed by Asia at about 33%, and then Europe at 20%. So that diversified trade pattern really helps us, weather some of these geopolitical issues. Our economic impact for the port is $61 billion. Of that, $51 billion is cargo alone. So that economic impact is huge. Our combined economics is about 4%, 3.9% of the state's GDP, right? So that goes huge. And all these investments that you're talking about, Chief, they go into that. So as far as our commodities on the cargo side, Our number one commodity, as you guys can all imagine, is fruits and vegetables, followed by apparel, obviously from the Caribbean a lot, and Latin America, and then machinery from Asia and furniture from Vietnam. So you can see that diversified trade pattern really helps us weather some of these geopolitical concerns that are taking place as well.
I'm an audible again a little bit for both of you here. Often people talk about how in government, everyone just sort of functions in a silo. But I think one of the observations I've had is that PortMiami and MIA really do work closely together and synergy. Talk a little about, and because as we've also are talking here about technology, talk a little bit about the project for which we had a groundbreaking earlier this year that is bringing new technology to help us with the cargo industry and our competitiveness. And whichever one of you wants to start first.
I think you're talking about the Future Ready Perishables facility.
You got it.
All right, there you go.
Right.
I'll start, and then Ralph, you can piggyback off of. So this past July, we kicked off a super exciting project. It's not taking place on the port. It's taking place at the Miami International Airport on their property. It's a phytosanitary and cold chain facility. We received a federal grant, a nice federal grant in tune of $34 million for this project. It's a public-private project, and what this facility will be doing, it's first, it's state-of-the-art. It's one really only a handful in the country, and it'll treat perishables mostly for pests as they come into our country. So fruits, vegetables, flowers for MIA, and the list of commodities actually expands past that. But we're very, very excited about this project. It's a joint project between the airport and the Seaport, and with federal dollars involved in it.
And Ralph, you touch on why logistically something like this is so important.
Oh my God. So first of all, let me say, so Hydi and I are not only colleagues, but we're very, very close friends. So the relationship that the Seaport and the airport have is exactly what the chief mentioned. It's a partnership. It's very symbiotic. I mean, 90% of Hydi's cruise passengers come through our airport. So when they come to the port, they come through. So we're always working on joint projects and ideas of how we can work together. And the phytosanitary facility is the classic example. So currently right now, MIA, we have the most square footage as far as cold storage of any airport in the United States, about 500,000 square feet. This joint project that the Seaport and the airport are working together on will add another 300,000 square feet of cold storage space to our capabilities. So that will solidify our position as really the premier international freight airport in the entire U.S. and fifth in the world. So that's extremely exciting for us. Now, as far as the logistics and facts that many people are unaware of, 91% of all the flowers that enter into the United States enter in through MIA. About 65% of all the fruits and vegetables, and about 58 to 59% of all the fish. All of that product has to be screened. It's got to be fumigated in the case of flowers, et cetera, like Heidi mentioned for pests. So having that additional cold storage square footage, that ability to go ahead and have the fumigation capability for that amount of products is incredible, because those numbers continue to grow. So what I always tell people is, if a mother in Omaha, Nebraska that's getting flowers for Mother's Day, those flowers probably came through MIA, and that's something we take a lot of personal pride in, because it's a big impact that we have not only in the county, in the state, but in the entire United States. So that's something that's a great project, and it's on our property. It's a joint project between us and the Seaport. Heidi and her team pursued this grant with the federal government, $30+ million, and we were very fortunate to get that. And it's a great joint project. There's rents that we get out of it, and additional capabilities that we get to be able to process our product, which is very important to us. I mean, cargo is extremely important to us. So just that working together, and we continue to identify other projects we can work on to make sure that we stay on the cutting edge.
Chief, if I can just give a shout out to TPO also. One of the projects that the TPO is working on is an airport seaport connector, right? How can we efficiently move our passengers, airport and seaport passengers, from one facility to the next more efficiently? So there'll be more to come on that as well. Little teaser.
That's a great point. A great point. Heidi, you talked about the terminals that have been built by the cruise companies. I've been to the MSC one. It's incredible, the world's largest. But the port itself and your own infrastructure have done some innovative things. You mentioned shore power. Talk a little bit about how some of the other infrastructure work you've done on the port and where sort of innovation and technology have come in.
Yeah, And I apologize. I don't think I brought up shore power. I think Ralph gave us a shout out for the shore power. So last year, actually, one of the mayor's largest initiatives at the Seaport was the launching of our shore power. We have shore power capability at 5 of our cruise terminals, where on any given day, 3 ships can plug in at one time simultaneously. So that's huge. That's these huge floating cities, 5,000 to 7,000 passengers, really plugging into our local grid and reducing emissions on the port. So that's one of our largest projects, and that's nothing that we did alone. The Seaport invested in infrastructure. We did get some grant money for that, but the cruise lines all invested in their vessels to retrofit them to be able to be shore power ready, as well as FPL, the local utility company, to put in the infrastructure to do that. So that's another example of how the community comes together for the better of all of us. On the cruise side, though, so we have a strong, I think you saw in the video, $2 billion capital improvement program over the next 5 years. We have lots of projects on both the cruise and the cargo side that are really technologically advanced and taking us to that what's next out there concept. On the cruise side, we mentioned already all the cruise terminals that we're building. I was remiss and I did not tell you that we are building a new cruise terminal on the west side of the port right now. We haven't had the official groundbreaking, but Cruise Terminal G is practically demolished. The next phase before the groundbreaking is we have to demolish our administrative building also. These cruise ships have just gotten so large that they're taking up more footprint than they did in the 1970s and 1980s when they were first built. So those are some of the projects on the cruise side. We will also be building out on the east end of the port, what we call berth 10, which is the 3rd berth for the MSC airport style terminal that'll be ready in 2028. Our largest project on the cruise side actually is the reconstruction of our north bulkhead. Starting from the west side of the port, we have 6 cruise berths that all need to be strengthened. It's a huge endeavor. It's over 7,000 linear feet. And what our plan to do is to take out 1 cruise berth each summer season starting in summer of 2027 to rehab that. And that is not to bring new volumes, that's to maintain the current volume of cruise ships that we have here. So on the capital side, that's probably our largest cruise project that we have forthcoming in the near future for the next 6 years. But let me switch over to cargo for a minute, because cargo is really exciting. And as you all know, we're a man-made island. We're 520 acres. So what does that mean? We have to use our land extremely efficiently. So cargo is all about densifying. How can we build higher? We are just about almost completing with South Florida Container Terminal, our 2nd phase of our ERTG, electric rubber tire gantry crane project. We will have 18 cranes in this South Florida Container Terminal that can stack containers higher and move the containers a lot more efficiently through our terminal. So as we densify, we're looking at relocating certain functions, everything from cargo gates to infrastructure inside all of our yards. We did get a federal grant to improve our rail yard. We're going to be going from 3 tracks to 5 tracks. We'll be starting that in the next 2 years. And that is also extremely exciting because the equipment that's in there is going to be very technologically advanced and environmental friendly, how they move throughout the yard.
You know, Heidi, you brought up the fact that you're limited in space. I mean, you know, I know for all of us, one of the great advantages is MIA is so close, right? It's not like flying out to the new airport in Denver or the port right here, you know, and you're on your cruise ship or whatever. But the flip side of that, though, is you both have, compared to your peer groups that you compete with, you are very small facilities. I think Port Canaveral is 5 times the size, and Port Everglades is 3 times the size in terms of your. Talk about some of those challenges for each of you, and how do you try to creatively deal with those?
Sure. So to put what the chief said in perspective, we are landlocked on 3,200 plus or minus acres at MIA proper, bounded by 37th Avenue on one side, Laguna, you know, we all know what the limits are, 36th Street, the 836. To put that in perspective, Dallas-Fort Worth, which is one of our competitor airports, has 19,200 acres to work with. So that gives you an idea of how the challenges that we have. So we are essentially as close to built out as you can possibly get. We have very little available acreage to build out. So we have to work with what we have. And I mentioned before, we're looking at 77 million passengers by the year 2040 and 5 million tons of cargo. So we need to get creative. So what we do is we work within the footprint that we have, and a lot of the projects that I mentioned before do exactly that. They innovate so we can work within the spaces that we have. Concourse K is a good example. We're going to add 6 domestic narrow-body gates. 3 of those eventually can be converted to international capable if we need to. But not only will that project do that, but it'll improve the movement of aircraft in that area of South Terminal. So we're constantly needing to innovate because we really can't go in any direction. So we build up, or we work within the partners that we have, and that's one of the points that Chief made. We work in very close partnership. One of the things that I think is unique to our airport versus other airports in the industry is that you'll have some airports that have adversarial relationships with their partners, with their airlines. That is the complete opposite here. There's no percentages doing that. So we work together with our stakeholders, with our partner airlines. We have almost 100, it was in the video, airlines that fly in our airport. That's the highest number of airlines of any airport in the country. So, picking fights with 100 different entities is not, there's no percentages in that. So we work together with our partners to build as much as we can out of the airport. And then we also have 4 general aviation airports where we have some land available. And those are some of the challenges we have. Again, I would give what I don't have to have an additional 2,000 or 3,000 acres to work with. It will make our life a lot easier. Being where we are is a double-edged sword because, as Chief mentioned, we're easy to get to and we're pretty centrally located. If you go to Denver, anybody that's been to Denver, it's an hour drive to get to their airport. So if you're going to go to Denver, downtown Denver, it's going to take you an hour on an Uber to get to the airport. So we're centrally located, but we are limited when it comes to that. So all of our projects include innovative components, building up, and we work within the space that we have to try to maximize the square footage that we have. We are currently at about 10 million square feet. About 8.5 million of those square feet are air conditioned, and that's what we have to work with. So we can expand here and there, and we have very, very good contractors and consultants working together with our team, our planning folks, and our design folks to make sure that we can maximize that. But yeah, we're very little acreage left.
Ralph, I remember how frustrated you were a couple of years ago when LaGuardia opened a beautiful new terminal, and people would say, "Oh, this is beautiful. Why doesn't MIA look like this?" Well, LaGuardia built a new terminal, kept the old one open, and then they opened the new one and closed the old one.
And it took them 8 years.
And it took 8 years. You don't have that luxury. You can't close anything. We're always under construction at MIA to keep up. Hydi, I know you've got some obviously similar issues. You're in terms of lately, it's been in the news. I mean, people want to build a fuel facility on the port, and 6 to 7 acres sounds like should be easy, but it's not. Talk a little bit about your challenges.
Yeah, so we maximize every inch of the port as well. And for those of you who are familiar with the port, I think you'll agree that we're a landlocked port, and we are densifying. In the last year, we've built flyovers just for passenger traffic, right? So you're kind of like making it like an airport but double level, but just through our regular streets. And you're going to continue to see these type of improvements. At the port, everything starts on the water, so we have to start from the water side and work your way in. We have depths. We're at the deepest port. Thank you for the shout out earlier, Chief. We're the deepest port just on the East Coast, just south of Virginia, which allows us to get the big vessels coming over from Asia. But that's limited to the south side of the port. We're not as deep on the north side, and our berths bringing those vessels in comes first, right? And then we look at our facilities. We're really built out on the cruise side after we finish those last 2 projects that I mentioned earlier, Berth 10 and Cruise Terminal G. We're really done on the north side of the port for cruise. So we're looking now at how we maximize that cargo space. What can we build upwards? Where can we build up? Last year on April 20th, we had our most busiest cruise day that we've ever had. We had over 72,000 passengers that came through the port. And that's not in 24 hours. That's in 9 hours, moving 72,000 plus passengers through the port in 9 hours. That takes a feat. That takes a lot. It takes a lot of transportation, and it takes a lot of infrastructure that you typically might think is empty when it's not. So if you see a taxi lot, right, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that might not be busy, but at 9 o'clock in the morning, it's packed. So as we build new facilities, say we build a new parking garage, we're going to be taking intermodal facilities and incorporating those into garages, just really utilizing as much space as possible to go vertical.
Well, rather than ask you each to wrap up, I want to find a little question real quick. Each of you, what do you see in the years ahead? What's your number one opportunity, and what's your number one challenge?
Okay, so I would say I'll quote a former director as to what our number one challenge is. And it goes as simple as this. Doing work at MIA is like replacing the tiles in your shower while you're taking a shower. And that's our biggest challenge, is we are currently one of the busiest airports in the world, rankings-wise. The rankings bear that out. Building a very, very ambitious and unprecedented capital improvement and modernization program while we continue to operate one of the busiest, both passenger and cargo airports in the world. That's our biggest challenge. As far as what I see as far as in the future, the numbers don't lie. I mean, and our planning guys are there. I mean, our long-term projections are extremely bright. So I'm very, very enthusiastic about our future moving forward because, I mean, there's a lot of airports that would love to be in the position we're in. We are the gateway to the Americas. We are the envy of a lot of airports because people would love to be able to have our route networks to Latin America, Central America, South America, and they don't have them. So the reason that we're in the position that we're in is not only because geographically we're in a very good position, and like the secretary mentioned before, that's God-given. Okay, we lucked out there. But it's all the hard work, our people that develop our routes. We have an air service development team that scours the planet trying to find routes for us. And like I said, we're right now at almost 100 airlines. So I think our future is bright. We continue to explore growth. We're looking to bring in a direct flight from Tokyo, hopefully in the next 2 to 3 years. We've been actively working on that. Our team is constantly looking at Middle East, Eastern Europe, other areas of the globe where we can continue to grow our international traffic. We're right now at about 45% international, 55% domestic. So I'm Hydi on the airport, but I'm born and raised here. I'm a homer, but I think our future is very bright. And I think we're going to continue to grow. And now with this capital program that we're implementing, I think our airport will be the envy of a lot of airports in the country.
Hey, were you also born here in Miami?
No, I was not born here.
Ah, okay. All right.
But I consider myself a Floridian. I've been here
She's a
since
Florida
I was 8
Gator,
years
though.
old.
Miami
I'm a
Hurricane.
Gator.
We're good. All right, Heidi, how about you?
Yeah, so lots of opportunities at PortMiami, which is what is really exciting for all of us. You know, how do you continue to build on a limited facility, right? And how can you grow and expand your business? That's kind of what excites me and our team. For instance, on the cruise side, right, we're at our limit. No more cruise terminals are going to be built after what you see on the horizon right now, at least for quite some time. So how do we change a typical pattern of travel, right? Our busy days are typically Thursday through Monday. Well, why not have cruises on Tuesday or Wednesday or even more on Thursday, right? Change that traditional model, and I think COVID brought that to a lot of us, right? Where you can work. Some folks work remote, and so the typical vacation patterns have somewhat changed. So number one. Number two is, can cruise ships turn around twice in one day? Might be a little bit more expensive, but hey, we can utilize our facilities more that way. So how can we think out of the box to get to that next level? And then on the cargo side, some of the challenges are we are densifying, we are going higher, but what's after that? Has anybody heard of the concept of an inland port? Well, an inland port is a project that we really believe here at the port as well, right? What kind of functions don't necessarily need to be housed at the port and can be taken elsewhere to free up some space for our business. So those types of challenges is what really excites me.
Well, thank you both. Big round of applause for our great directors. And thank you.